Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside Scoop with Sue. And today I'm super excited, first of all, because I consider Michelle my friend and I got to have a few minutes chatting with her. And we would love to continue that conversation on Facebook with all of you. Michelle Icard is the author of Middle School Makeover, Improving the Way You and Your Child Experience the Middle School Years. And her most recent book, 14 Talks by Age 14, The Essential Conversations You Need to Have with Your Kids Before They Start High School. So, Michelle, thank you for making time for us. We have a really important question to discuss today.
Well, thank you, Sue, for having me. You know, I love to chat with you, so let's go.
All right. So we hear this a lot, and it's not anything you forget when you live through it. That feeling, in particular, I would say the first time these things happen with your kids as they're entering adolescence and they hate you, or you have the perception that they hate you. And it's like devastating because what have we done as mothers? We have built these relationships with our kids so that they're loving, and nothing changed on our part, but everything changed on their part. So first of all, let's just start with, is this normal?
Oh, yes. Next question. No, I'm just kidding. It is so normal, but it's normal across the landscape. So it is normal from house to house and family to family, but it's not normal for you as the mom. It feels really scary, as you mentioned, and off-putting and sad. And you're quite afraid, like, this is it. I got 12 years with this kid and that's it. And now they hate me and they're going to go. I remember having that fear as a mom myself, being like, this kid's never coming back. They're never going to come back to me. It was really sad.
Okay, we're having a dog crisis here. Hold on.
No, everybody gets it. I think Sue has gone to quiet her pups.
Might still be a din in the background, but at least it's not so loud. So yes, so thank you. It is painful, and it's easy to catastrophize as like the end of the relationship. Right. But you know, because you're deeply immersed in this time of children's lives, you know that's not forever. So in that immediacy of living with our kids and feeling the deep, deep pain of it, what do we do? How do we get through it?
I think the key is really to be nice to yourself. Take the focus off of your kid for a moment. And I jokingly say this, and it's really not a joke. I mean, I say it with some humor, that my best advice to every parent whose kid is going into middle school is to get a hobby, because your kid is going to be really busy separating from you. They should do that. It's not only normal, as you said, but it's a good thing. It's the way that they become independent thinkers and individuals apart from you. And that's what you want. They're just not good at it. So they can be mean about it and they can be sloppy about it. And so what I encourage parents to do is to dive into your own life. Pick up something that you had put down for the past 12 years when you were busy being a really great mom or dad, and re-engage with old friends or hobbies or new interests, and just devote that time to yourself.
Well, I mean, it's so brilliant, because the other thing it does is it takes the time to obsess and be focused on what's not working with your kid. It's a little bit like hedging your bets, right? Like, you don't apply for one job at a time, because when that one job doesn't come through, you're devastated. So you try to have a bunch, right?
That is brilliant.
Yeah. Right? It's kind of like spreading out your mental health to other places.
And you know what it also does? It sends a signal to your kid that you're not so needy of them. And when they're at a point in their life where they feel this really important natural urge to separate and become independent, we all want it, they see that and they think, oh, okay, I can safely approach my mom because she's not going to like down on me and I'm not her everything right now. So it's really meant to serve you, but it does have that sort of nice flip side of the coin where your kid then sees you as being more approachable.
Oh, I think that might be the single biggest thing we need to hear. Mm-hmm. It's the burden we put, how we don't get the reaction that we're hoping for when the kids feel the burden that we put on them of like, you hurt my feelings, right? Like, I am crestfallen because of what you just said to me.
We think that they will say, oh gosh, I didn't realize how terrible I was being or how hurt you are. Please let me make amends. And instead they feel judged. They feel as though you're criticizing them for just being who they are. They're highly sensitive, obviously. They're very emotional. So it just doesn't work. And your best bet is to just sort of turn that energy towards yourself and be really kind and good to you.
The reactions I've gotten in those moments, and I've, had many to learn from,
Yeah.
The reaction was almost kind of like, oh my God, really? Yeah. Like, get over yourself. This isn't about you. That's and I'm thinking, it's totally about me. Look how you're talking to me.
Mm-hmm. I know, it's painful. Well, they are in a phase of life. Kids who are in early adolescence are in a phase of life where they are really looking inward. And it's so hard for them to pull back and have any perspective. And sometimes we want to be like, hey, man, like, why do I have to be the grown-up here? But we have to be the grown-up.
That's a great line. Like, I don't want to be the grown-up right now.
Yeah.
You hurt my feelings, and I feel, yeah.
Be the
so that dynamic is, you've already told us, good for their development. And still, like, we search for the way to change the way we engage with our kids during those times. So it's like, do we have to just accept that this is a space they need to be jerky toward us? Or are there, like, maybe some Band-Aids to put on this so that dinner time can be pleasant?
For sure. I think it is still perfectly reasonable, and it is a good thing to have boundaries with your kids so that they learn how to treat you and other people with dignity and respect and kindness, even when they're feeling angry or grumpy or selfish or whatever it may be. So to answer your question, you should give them space. You should absolutely just kind of pull back, focus on yourself a little bit, literally give them space. Let them go to their room and cocoon or do whatever, go out with their friends, whatever they need to do to be part of that process of becoming an individual. On the other hand, you want to pair that with some balance. So you can also say to them how you feel and what you need. Now, as you just expressed, if you say it in a way that your kid is going to take with offense or look at you with sort of disgust, you don't want that reaction. So what I recommend is using a little bit of flattery. It may not be the thing that comes naturally to you when you're upset with your kid, but you might, in a downtime when they're not being snotty with you, say something like, hey, I love that you're getting to spend so much time with your friends, and I'm happy you like your room and you're there a lot. That's really cool. I'm glad you're getting this space for you. I also really like you and I want to hang out with you. So is there a time we can put on the calendar when the two of us can go do something? So it's not, hey, I miss when you used to be nice to me. Remember we used to be
tempting. It's so tempting.
It's really tempting because you want to prove your point and you have evidence. And so you want to bring that into the conversation. Your kid will not like that. So don't reach for, you used to be good, we used to be close. That puts a real guilt trip on your kid and they don't understand that. Just give them a nice, lob them a compliment. I like you. I want to spend time with you.
That's lovely. Okay, Brianna has a few comments, but I'm going to share this one in particular. I'd rather have them be a jerk to me and a good person to others, but I usually will just stop and say something like, would you say that to your teacher?
Yeah, and I think that that's what a lot of parents will say is, I know that they're hard on me because this is a safe space for them to just be expressive and emotive and to get it wrong. And so it is nice. I think most of us have had that experience where another family says, oh, your kid is so polite when they're over. And you're like, my kid? Awesome. But you know at home that they behave differently. So that's really common. And I've heard also some parents will say, just sort of slow the track down and say, do you want to try saying that to me differently or again or in a different way? And I think that that's really reasonable.
I love that. It's also the tone of voice that matters so much when you deliver it. Yeah. So like you just said it in the most generous way. It's not always easy to do that when in fact you got a sting from it, right? Like
yeah, it takes practice. And so I think it's really important to remember that your kid does not need an immediate response. If your kid says something to you that is wounding, like it just hits you, you don't have to instantly show grace. You can just take a deep breath and say, I'm going to need a minute to think about how I want to respond. And then you can walk away and then you can say something later. But boy, does it take practice. It's tough.
So how do we practice? Like, do you practice in advance in your head or you practice literally when it happens with your kids?
So I'm someone who practices in my head a lot. We were talking about this before it started. I consider myself an introvert, and I think through what I'm going to say before I say it in the shower as I'm going to bed. I replay conversations from the day. So that works for me. If that doesn't work for you, then you can just do it live in the moment. But I mean, however it manifests for you in a way that's helpful, just know that it's okay if you don't get it right the first time. It's a process and it takes a lot of practice. Just the way your kid is practicing right now, you too are practicing how to shift your response.
So Brianna says that they have a daily roses and thorns, and they address feelings that were hurt. I know the expression, but I never did it. Do you know what it is? The roses and thorns?
Yeah. So our family called it high and low. And I also had a friend whose family called it happy and crappy, which I think is cute. But it's when you're sitting around and you say, let's play high low, or let's play roses and thorns. And you say one rose and one thorn from the day, one high moment, one low moment. I found that was a really great way to sort of break the silence at dinner time. And it's short. So your kid will often be willing to give you that little tiny breadcrumb, better than saying, like, tell me all about everything. One good thing, one bad thing, and then they're out.
Yeah. I mean, I think I did a lot of that barrage of, actually, I know, because I still do it and they still call me on it, of like, it's not like, how was your day? It's how was your day followed by 100 more interview questions. And so this one, it's good. It's concise.
It's concise, and your kids, I mean, I had one kid who was like, can we do 100 of them? And one kid who was like, I'll do one.
If I have to, right?
If I have to, I'll do one. Yeah.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question you answered was, what are the tricks we can do to keeping a conversation going? Do you have any other ones?
Yeah, so I got a bunch in here in 14 Talks by Age 14. So that was a great lob. Thank you. But truly, there are lots of things that you can do. One of them is, if your kid isn't really talking to you at this phase, switch to text. Kids this age often prefer writing over talking, and it's because it gives them time to think about what they want to say, so it doesn't feel impulsive. If you heard my phone, that was the equivalent of your dog. So I had it on Do Not Disturb, but sorry. So yeah, I found that switching to text really opened doors to new conversations and new ways of talking with my kids. Everybody who's ever heard me talk knows about my Botox brow tip, but just as you said, tone of voice is really important. So is tone of face. So you want to look neutral. If you look like this, even if this to you means I'm interested, to your kid, it looks angry. So those are a couple things to keep in mind to sort of shift the tone of the conversation.
So what's the Botox forehead? Tell us.
Yeah, so essentially it's just, I want you to pretend that you are a celebrity on a late night talk show and you've been so overly Botoxed, you can't wrinkle your forehead. I want it to be completely neutral. And that's based on research that kids this age, they use a different part of the brain to read facial expressions, and they're not good at it. They're really bad at it. So they will assume you're angry when you're not. Wipe your face clear of expression, and you don't run the risk of them getting snappy.
How's that?
Oh, you look really good. Yeah, you look totally natural.
Okay, practice it, because my kids read my neutral face as angry.
Ah, you may have to know. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They comment. Like, one kid will go to me, what are you angry about? And I'm like, wait, I've just put on my Botox face. I followed Michelle's advice and I still know.
I'm so sorry if I misled you. Yeah.
No, I think it's because normally I'm smiling. And so when I get on the neutral face, they know I've just shifted away. I'm like trying not to look mad.
And I think smiling is okay. What you want to avoid is this, which
yeah.
I do a lot, just as like kind of my, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm focusing. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that there's two different paths we go down with our kids. Sometimes the rejection is by like absolutely being silent and removing yourselves from the relationship. And sometimes the rejection is very vocal and like you feel it all day long in words and looks and everything like that. Should our reactions be different depending on whether it's the kind of like retreating or the outspoken I hate you?
I think so. Yeah. I think retreating is well, they're both normal, as we've discussed. Retreating can feel a little like rejection, but it's not necessarily rude. And outward bursts of anger or defiance or rejection, saying I hate you, that kind of thing, those are hard to tolerate. And I think, you're modeling for your kids how they interact with other people when they interact with you. You're also showing them how to react to someone who does that to them. So consider that. If your child is in a relationship with someone down the road and that person says really nasty things to them, you'd be very upset on their behalf, and you'd want them to know how to speak up for themselves in a way that expresses their own dignity and their own self-worth. So begin to do that with your kid. And again, you may get the, ugh, mom, why are you making this all about you? Doesn't mean it's a wasted moment. Just because they have that reaction, they may still be internalizing the language that you're using, the vocabulary that you're using, because they often don't have the vocabulary yet to express boundaries in a way that is clear and responsible. So we need to show them how.
I don't know if this is something you ever did, but I would lob things out there and then just walk away, because the engaging in the conversation was of no interest to them. But like the idea that, hey, that one probably crossed a line, and then just walk away.
I think that's great. I think that's really great, because you're showing that you're not there for a fight, but that you are there to say how you feel. That's great.
Thanks. Well, it would be hard to say that really sucks. I would never do that. So, but thank you. Okay, last question for you. And Brianna has one more comment. My almost 12-year-old is more of a quiet kid, but he loves writing in our journals to one another. He also sits in on our podcasts. If he feels he has gone too far, he will go through his emotions and then end up apologizing. Well, that's very evolved. That's impressive.
That's really good. And I think that if you give a kid some time, and if you don't jump to laying on the guilt or analyzing their behavior, you just sort of like when they are cruel or mean, they will often come back and, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. They live a little bit in fear of what your response will be. So if you give them the response right away, they don't have to sit and process it. And if you make them think it through, they'll feel pretty bad usually.
Yeah, well, the other part of it is, if you get mad, you have deflected, you have shifted the course of their anger in life, right? Like now you're the jerk.
That's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about, wow, mom really lost her cool. What a weirdo, right? Instead of thinking about, wow, I said something really terrible to mom.
Yeah, you just gave them like an out.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Mm-hmm. Really hard one. How do we love them anyway? Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a visual on this, and it's one that my therapist gave me when I was trying to figure out how to deal with someone, not one of my kids, who was consistently sharp with me and mean to me, but loved me. So what she said is this: I want you to imagine that you're going on a hike in the woods and it's a beautiful day, and you hear a ferocious growl, and it is like scaring you. And you think, there's a wild dog out here and I'm going to have to fight it. And so you start looking for a stick, and you're like, I'm going to have to beat this dog away from me because it's going to attack me, the way it sounds. And as you get closer to the growl, you see that the dog has gotten its leg caught in a bear trap. And it is like growling out of fear and pain and all of this. So if your first reaction to this sort of I hate you behavior is I'm going to have to fight, then that you and that dog are going to get into a big old fight, and it's not going to end pretty for either of you. But if you can sort of visualize like where this is coming from, might have their leg in a trap, right? They might feel really confused. They might have an onslaught of emotions and hormones. They might have something going on with a friend and it's coming out at home with you. So I say keep that visual in mind instead of engaging in a fight, and you love them anyway. And you are gentle with them when they are being cruel. You are kind to yourself. You walk away, you revisit it when emotions aren't running high. All of that, I think, is a sort of a healthy way to deal with a pretty yucky situation, but also a totally normal one.
So I want to say how beautiful that was. And I am going to take to heart what you said. And I'm going to put out there to everybody that even though it's near impossible to kind of hug your kid when they're saying, I hate you, or whatever you want to do, just try it once and see what the reaction is. Because I think Michelle is onto something. And, it might create a whole new space for loving if we can do that.
I love that.
Michelle Icard, I love having you on. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.